that because we were determined to make sure that our kids had it better than we did. We were determined to take the lessons that Jim and Mavis Clark and all the parents of our people in our government had taught us to make sure that we did what proud parents, what a proud generation should do. And when we were done, British Columbia was #1 in job growth, #1 in economic growth for 3 years running, and there were 2 reasons for that success. One of them was the fiscal responsibility and discipline that we showed over 6.5 years. The other one was this. We had a determined central focus on making sure that we got to yes on economic development projects. Now, getting to yes is tough, especially as you know, I'm sure, in British Columbia. And for us, it meant we had to set goals for projects to go ahead. We had to reform a government system that, frankly, is really set up to stop projects from going ahead rather than helping them go ahead. And it meant, most importantly, finding allies in a very complicated political environment for growth. Finding people that would stand with us and support economic growth, support projects, when we are living in a time in BC where there are 5 protesters for every worker driving a tractor out there. And there will be people, I think, who would be surprised to see a First Nations leader introducing me today. Ellis is standing strongly in favor of economic growth, and you shouldn't be surprised that he is. In 125 years, there have only been 3 members of the British Columbia legislature who are of Aboriginal descent. We ran 3 more in the last election, all of them in winnable ridings. 2 of them chiefs, 1 of them a vice chief. And all of those people ran with us because, like Ellis, they believe that the path to healthy and wealthy Indigenous communities is to get involved in economic development, not to try and stop economic development. Ellis wants a chance to make his community self-sustaining. He wants a chance to be able to say to Ottawa, stop sending us your checks. We can look after ourselves very much. We are going to make sure in his community that he gets a chance to build it his own way and send those checks back to Ottawa unopened, loud and proud, wealthy and healthy. That's the future for this community. And I ask you this, isn't this what we should all want for First Nations communities? This is what we want for our kids. Would you want to raise your child in a community that's struggling with chronic unemployment, with addiction issues and suicide rates that are higher than anywhere else in the country, rates of incarceration, lousy schools? Isn't it an opportunity for us to help First Nations get out from under all that? And I think there's a conservative answer to that question, not one that just involves more government checks and more government studies. Because the solution to poverty is not just more studies. The solution to poverty is the creation of wealth. So let's get on with it. Let's get on with sharing, revenue sharing with First Nations peoples in their traditional territories. A new mine, a new pipeline, a new liquefaction plants. Let's make sure that we are sharing some of that wealth from new businesses with the First Nations communities who are our neighbors. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons to do that. 1, because we all want First Nations to be able to thrive. That's a good thing, and that's the best reason we should do it. But second, when we talk about revenue sharing, whose money is that we're sharing? It's government money. Am I the only person in this room who thinks government already has too much money? So let's share it. Third, because if we are sharing with First Nations peoples, those projects will become a reality. And we will all benefit. Folks, 100% of nothing is nothing. Let's get that infrastructure built. Let's get those pipelines built so that we all have something to share. Because if Kinder Morgan happens, if LNG happens, Canada, not just British Columbia and Alberta, not just Indigenous communities, every single Canadian is going to be a whole lot richer. And if we share with First Nations people, we can be part of the solution for communities that have been living with over a century of struggle in this country. And eco-activists and their enablers are going to argue, as they always do, that resource extraction is bad for First Nations. I passionately argue the opposite, because I believe that if we do it right, moving oil and gas from Asia, from our west coast over to Asia, is going to be a generational opportunity to finally alter the future for Indigenous people in this country. And because in British Columbia, we've got 200 unique First Nations. They're all different, lots of different languages, no treaties, well, almost no treaties with any of them, and this is our chance to support them in creating the futures that they want for their children, just like the futures that we want for our children. So Alice Ross and people like him need our support. They need us to stand with them and fight, because they are the most important, I would argue, the single most important piece in the pipeline debate. If we want to get our resources out to market, we have some incredibly powerful voices on our side. So let's fight with them, and let's stand with them. And I think that they deserve our support. So I probably won't be the first person to say this today, but I think our country is at a crossroads right now. And I think, instead of getting our resources out of the ground and selling them in a competitive market at a decent price, we're getting our resources out of the ground, we're shipping them to the Americans, and then the Americans are selling our resources to the Asian markets at a competitive price. And the protest groups are trying to tell a different story, but the fact is, they aren't shutting down our oil and gas industries. They aren't shutting down the oil sands and the Peace River country. All they're doing is succeeding in the Canadians get poorer. All they're doing is ensuring that the country that has the highest environmental standards, the best worker safety standards, the highest wages of just about any country in the world is getting rooked. They're making sure that we are getting shortchanged for our resources, and that the Americans get to walk away with the money and the jobs. I am a Canadian, and I am not proud of what's going on in this country today. And when I say a crossroads, I mean our kids are going to look back and they're going to say, who was it that stood strong in the face of protest and controversy? Which of us chose the harder path of building a better Canada? They're going to say, which of us had courage? And now is a time in this country for courage. Now is a moment that I believe really will alter the future for our children, for good or for bad. So my last thought for you is this, on a different topic, one that everybody's talking about. You can guess what it's going to be. We are in an era now where women are standing up and making our voices heard. And I have to tell you, I'm happy about that. But the reason I want to raise it with you is because I see a tremendous opportunity for all of you and for the parties that you represent across the country. Conservatives and right-of-centre parties find yourselves in opposition in half the provinces and nationally in Canada. So I want you to think about something. As you think about winning elections, I want you to think about the chance that you have, because you don't have as many incumbents as the other guys, to make sure that more women are running for your parties. Make sure that you're nominating more women. And I don't mean just give women jobs because they're women. I mean get good women. There are plenty of us out there, by the way. We're sometimes a little hard to talk into doing these crazy things like politics, but it's worth it. Because women make a real difference when we're in the room. We are the ones that, we experience life differently. And I don't really believe that men and women care about different things. I know that men care about childcare. And I know that men care about education. I know that men care about looking after your elderly parents. But the difference is, men know about those things. But the fact is that women are just a lot more likely to have lived those things. We are the ones that are dealing with our kids at school and teachers. We are the ones that are the primary caregivers more often for our kids. We are the ones on whose shoulders the burden and the joy of looking after our elderly parents often falls. And so we bring that experience into the room, and we talk about things differently. We don't talk about different things. But we need that experience in the halls of power. We need women around tables where decisions are made, because we do make such a difference when we're there. So don't waste this chance. Make sure you elect women. Make sure you nominate women. Make sure you fight for women. Make sure that, make sure that you live up to the legacy the Conservative parties have made across this country. The first female Prime Minister was Kim Campbell. The first female Senator, the first female, Ellen Fairclough, was a woman. You have so many trailblazers that came from the Conservative movement, probably more than any other party. You should honor that legacy. This is a chance. It's a chance that may not come again. Because after the next election, who knows? Conservatives might be the incumbents in every province across the country.